her this morning. I thought she was going to be here on time.
Okay.
Charles? Hey, Charles? Another email from Art Anderson. Are we good on him yet, or is there anything else he needs?
I think we're technically good. My comment, or my question
can-
was what to tell Art about the process.
Mike's on.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, she's she'll
Okay,
be here soon.
we'll go ahead. At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, March the 22nd of 2022 in the city council chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have in the chambers with us District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem. We have District 5, Tim Royce. And we have remote, District 2, Grady Simpson. And my understanding is District 4 Representative Stephanie Holmes Thomas is on her way and will be joining us shortly. She's Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Grady, are you there?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. Would you please lead us in invocation, and if everyone would please remain standing for the pledge?
Yes, Mayor.
Oh, that's
Mayor,
right. No, I'm sorry. You're right. Hey, Grady, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I have Pastor Matt Scott with Emmanuel Baptist Church here. Pastor, if you would please come forward. Thank you.
Yes. Welcome, Pastor Scott.
Thank you. If you all bow your heads. Father, we just come before you. We are so thankful, Lord, for the many blessings that you bestow upon us. And we're so grateful that we live in a country in which we can participate in our own government. And Lord, I just want to thank you so much for the men and women who serve us in Terrell on this council and in our city government. Lord, we are grateful for them and the service they provide to our city. Father, I just pray that your blessings would be on them, Lord, that your blessings would be on their families. Lord, this is difficult work, stressful work that they engage in at times. And so, Lord, I just pray that you would bless them with wisdom, Lord, that you would give them discernment to know how to best govern and to make decisions for our community. Father, I pray that you would give them a unity on the council as they work through difficult issues to determine what's best for our community as a whole. And so, Lord, we just ask that your blessings would be on them. And we just, again, are so grateful for the many, many things you provide for us. And we are first and foremost grateful for the blood of Christ that has forgiven us. And we are grateful for that. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
If you would,
Amen.
Pastor, if you would stay for just a moment, and then we'll go ahead and do the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
So, Pastor, I'm sorry, Pastor, if you would, I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. I saw that we had former council member Charles Whitaker. Charles, would you come up and, aren't you part of Emmanuel Baptist? I'll give you a moment to say or address the council if you'd like.
Go ahead.
Matt has been with us a year and a half. Does that sound about right? I haven't missed enough church, I could keep up with that. But he did come to us January before last, been there a year and a half. We had a pastor for 20 years, and Matt come in and, things are going great. I am on the Board of Deacons. The city has been working with us recently on some your water drainage and that kind of stuff, and we appreciate that very much. Matt is also recently married, so he and his wife, are new to town. He's originally from, let me get this right, Leonard.
Leonard, that's correct.
And some of y'all know folks, from Leonard up there in North Texas. So we're glad to have him. He's part of the Manuel family. He's a leader of the Manuel family, but he's, now a Terrellite.
Okay, and the church is celebrating its 51st year? This
At that present location, yeah.
location.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, let me, Council, Mayor Carmona was kind of a Manuel Baptist member. There was really nothing shady going on with the pastor, Casey Perry at the time, and the mayor. The mayor was quite a basketball player. Right? Went to St. John's Catholic, but Emmanuel Baptist Church needed some basketball players. So he was drafted, and I think he had to come to Wednesday night prayer meeting maybe,
Wednesday is
something
the
like
night
that.
service, that's right.
Yeah, he had to darken the doors of Emmanuel X number of times to be eligible to play on the basketball team. So I'm sure that was all above board and everything, so he is kind of a Emmanuel Baptist alumni.
Honorary
Yeah,
Baptist.
Honorary
Yeah.
Baptist, okay.
That's very true. Thank you.
Thank you so
Short.
much.
Thank you for being here. Our next item on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. We do have with us council. This is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and we have with us tonight individuals from several different groups. The first one, Kaufman County Child Protective Services. We also have Kaufman County Children's Advocacy Center. We have a representative from Kaufman County Child Welfare Board. We have a representative from Lone Star Casa Court-Appointed Special Advocates. We also have REACH Child Placing Agency, and we're also going to acknowledge and recognize Bikers Against Child Abuse and A. Fern Norvell Shelter Foundation. We have a proclamation to read, and then afterwards we have a presentation for the group. And so I'll read the proclamation. It reads from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Terrell. Whereas the month of April has been designated National Child Abuse Awareness Month since 1983, and whereas this annual observance is dedicated to raising awareness and preventing child abuse, and whereas Kaufman County Child Protective Services, CPS, a division of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, investigates allegations of child abuse and neglect, provides services to children, and provides help for parents and hope for kids through tips, action plans, and education. And whereas Kaufman County Children's Advocacy Center was established to coordinate the investigation, prosecution, and treatment of child abuse cases across Kaufman County, providing free forensic interviews, counseling, and advocacy support to approximately 500 children each year. And whereas Kaufman County Child Welfare Board is part of the Texas Council of Child Welfare Boards, whose mission is to support a statewide network of volunteers concerned with the welfare of children. And whereas Lone Star Casa court-appointed special advocates have been providing advocates for children of Rockwall and Kaufman County for the past 28 years. And whereas Bikers Against Child Abuse is an international organization that works to empower children by providing emotional support and shielding them from further abuse. And whereas the A. Fern Norvell Shelter Foundation is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life for children and young adults who are displaced from their families or who are involved in the foster care system due to abuse, neglect, and abandonment. And whereas REACH, Child Placing Agency, is committed to serving and advocating for children who have been abused and neglected by recruiting foster and adoptive families. Now therefore, I, by the virtue vested in me as mayor, and on behalf of the Terrell City Council, do hereby proclaim March 22nd, 2022 as Child Abuse Awareness Day, and the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in Terrell, in recognition of the work done by individuals, organizations, and families in an effort to protect children from abuse. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the corporate seal of the City of Terrell, Texas to be affixed this, the 22nd day of March of 2022. Rick Carmona, Mayor. If y'all would please come forward. At this time, I think our Mayor Pro Tem would like to say a few words.
Yeah, and you can all still come up, as I say a couple of words. So, Mayor, Child Abuse Prevention Month is something very special and dear to me. After, Terrell ISD and my community invested in me, And after going to college, my first full-time role was working with Child Protective Services in the conservatorship department. So many of the individuals standing before you were, my colleagues, and they really do the hard work. They work with the most vulnerable children and families in our community, and it's not an easy job. And so I certainly commend all their efforts, and I want to also highlight an event that the Reach Child Placing Agency is having. It's called Guns, Glam, and Gucci on Friday, March the 25th at 7 p.m. at the Establishment Barn in Terrell. And just like Reach, the Child Welfare Board, Lone Star CASA, and all the other organizations tend to have events throughout the year to support all the efforts, many free or volunteer efforts that their organizations have for our most vulnerable children and families. So thank you all for being here today and appreciate the work you do. And I think we're all going to take a photo.
And then I think you get all the cookies, sweetie.
100%. Thank you. Those are super cute. Oh, it's from Will. That's great.
Did everybody get cookies?
Can't forget you, Barbara.
Hey, I want to say thank you personally on behalf of the city for all that you do for those that are most in need, especially the children. And it doesn't go unnoticed in the community, so thank you very much. You're welcome.
Oh, see, you're tall. You
I
got it.
in the background. Yeah, I know my role.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Now, the rest of the meeting is a little boring, so if y'all want You're welcome. Thank y'all very
So
much.
much.
You bet. You're most
Appreciate
welcome.
you.
Thank you, you bet.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Good to see you, thank you.
Yeah. So, as we wait for our Mayor Pro Tem to return, I also want to say that today, one of the service clubs had a event, the Kiwanis Pancake Day, and it was good to see the community out this morning and at lunch and probably this evening, enjoying pancakes and sausage, milk. Also, want to let everybody in the community aware that there is a celebration honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April the 4th of 2022. There'll be music, reflections, community service awards, Spirit of the King Award, and this will be held at the Jamie Foxx PAC, Terrell High School, 6 p.m., and all are welcome. Again, that is April the 4th of 2022. Does anybody else have any recognitions? Mike?
Mayor, I think it's appropriate to thank Glenn Caldwell and the school district, AJ Knight. There's a lot of work going on right now. Your Park and Downtown Improvement Corporation funded the lights that you see going up at Ben Gill Park right now. That's an exciting project. And then also an exciting coordinated project with that is the Terrell Excellence Center, now under partnership with the city, doing the soccer signups for youth soccer. I think we've got over 50 already signed up. I talked to Superintendent Warnock about that today. So we're seeing a great response to that. So kiddos who want to be involved in the soccer program, that's as easy now as just getting involved with the Excel Center, and we hope for some great success out of that program. So nice to see the lights going up, and nice to see the registrations clicking forward on folks getting involved in our soccer program.
Yeah, excellent, wonderful. Our next item on the agenda is hear remarks from visitors. Don, do we have any? All right, thank you. Then we'll move on to item 6.1, discuss and consider minutes from the regular city council meeting on March the 8th, 2022, and the special city council meeting and workshop on March 10th of 2022. Council, is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 8th and March 10th as presented.
We have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second? Second. Have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is 7.1, discuss Building Standards Commission appointment and reappointments. This will be handled by City Secretary Don Stahl.
Mayor and council, the Building Standards Commission roster is in your packet. This board has not been active since 2018, and we've been reaching out to prior members to see if they wanted to be reappointed. Carrie Harwell and Stephen Austin both wish to be reappointed. And there was also a Mrs. Covington that had been appointed, but she was never sworn in, and she would like to be reappointed as well. And I'll have more of this information in the packet for you next week.
Okay, this falls under Tim Royce. Tim, do you have any comments?
No, I'm glad we're cranking the committee back up.
All right, cool, thank you. Next item on the agenda, discuss upcoming meeting calendars. Again, this is City Secretary Don Stahl.
Mayor and council, in your packet are the calendars for March through July. We were trying to give everyone a chance to be able to get all the meetings on their calendars. Please note that the budget retreat will be on July 28th and 29th, and we will be letting you know the location for that at a later date.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any comments or questions for Don on the upcoming meeting calendar? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is 8.1. This is to discuss labor cost analysis, and this will be handled by our Director of Human Resources, Carol Holland. Ms. Holland?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you remember, during the budget retreat for 21, because there was budgetary restraints, I asked that we come back at mid-year to review the personnel matters of salary increases for our employees. As you know, since that time, we have experience other factors, inflation, COVID-related situations where we were unable to provide the raises to the employees. So I am providing the data that I would like for you to take under consideration. I'm waiting for it to come up on the screen. I had a ophthalmologist exam, and my doctor told me the next prescription would be a CNI dog, so I need to really see this.
They didn't dilate your eyes.
I think let's just turn it
Yeah.
off.
So.
There we go.
So, for those of you who were not on the council back in 2014, there was an extensive study conducted by Catherine Ray and Associates. We internally call that the Catherine Ray study. It is a scientific salary and wage and benefit study that was adopted by the City Council to be effective October 1, 2014. The premise of that study was to provide a new step plan for employees to grow. Now, step plan is not, although it is based on tenure, within that tenure, we expect employees to become more sophisticated in their skills, to grow and know their jobs and their tasks. So on each year of your anniversary, it was presented that you would receive a step increase. But because of budget restraints, immediately in October 2014, step increases were frozen, and they have been frozen since that time. And there have been some movement, but it has not been consistent. The purpose, again, of the comp plan was to maintain a fair and competitive comp plan for retention of our employees and also recruitment, because new employees or new interested candidates are requesting to be paid at market. But if our comp plan did not keep up with market, so we're having a hard time adjusting for new employees and maintaining those employees who have been consistently with us and tenured throughout their service to us. Any questions so far? So again, I said that the comp plan was immediately frozen, except for under other requirements, police and fire, civil service staff. They continue to move on the step plan. So each year, to make sure that we are competitive with the cities that were selected by the City Council, we do our actual survey of 10 cities and 2 entities to ensure that we are within the market. And you have before you, in 2014, when immediately steps were frozen, the average of those 10 cities and 2 entities, those entities received a 2.5% increase. The city of Terrell was only able to award employees 1%. And so that's the matrix that you see all the way down through 2021, where the market specified one amount, but the city of Terrell was only able to award what was affordable. If you go down to 2019, that is the only year in which we were close to market, where the market awarded their employees 5%, and we were only able to award 3.5%. Now, and a market adjustment is not the same as a step increase. The market adjustment include other factors: inflation, cost of living. It is separate from just a step increase for a person to maintain a quality of life. So each year, our comp plan was structured to at least be in the 90% percentile of the market, but we never moved our current comp plan because we gave salary adjustments, but we didn't move the market on the document, which means employees who we attempted to recruit, they came in under a lower amount because our comp plan did not change. Employees that are internally did not receive a step increase because the market did not change, because we did not change with the market. Questions so far?
With this slide here, what was going on in 2021 with this 2 point? Versus, I can already see here, it looked like we're several percentages behind, but what happened in 2021, if you can explain that to me?
In 20? If you, again, the process and procedure was the same. We conducted our internal survey of the market. The 10 entities that we used plus the 2 private entities, their average was 2.84% on October 1. We were unable to award any employee a salary adjustment October 1, so we had to delay it. It equated to 5%, but it was split up. On May 1, we were able to award a step increase of 2.5% to try to catch up, and then the same process for 9/1.
Thank you.
And then, of course, we're in 2022, and again, the same process where the market was 2.20, but we haven't awarded a step increase as of today. So with all of that data, statistically, our comp plan is 11.8% behind the market, 12%. There is an amplified focus on our comp plan. It is from grades 5 through 41. However, the grades 5 through 16 are the labor positions, and that is where those are the lower paid positions within the city. So I extracted those grades and title to attempt to convey to you how dire those employees are with their hourly rates. Which, when I ran the data, those employees or their hourly rate is $2.07 behind their competitors in other cities, doing the same task, performing the same responsibility, having the same responsibilities. And the average hourly rate for that particular grades 5 through 16 is $18.48. The 2,080 hours is the actual number of hours municipal employees work on a standard 40-hour work week, excluding police and fire, which equates to the average for those employees is less than $40,000. Statistics indicate that a family of 4 that's making less than $40,000 is actually below the poverty line.
So Carol, I think what I'd like to do is to get through your presentation, and then have the council make some notes or comments, and then we'll have a...
You have any questions? Okay.
Yes, yeah. That way we don't interrupt you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Again, I referenced earlier in the preamble the cities that were selected for our competitors in the market. These cities are cities that, there may be some cities that you do not agree with, but these cities have basically the same type of tax base that we have. They either have a municipal airport, they have the retail and the commercial growth that you are seeing within this city. These cities are experiencing the same thing, so they are like cities, and you can reference back to their market adjustments that they gave their employees. And then there's a second, you have a second? You didn't want that on there? Okay, well, it was a document that showed the proposed increase and then the current hourly rate that employees are having right now.
So, Council, we're hearing from our Director of Human Resources. Look, there's nobody, I don't think, who understands and wants to get current market for our employees.
Right.
You know, I think you should pay your employees their worth, right? That's not an issue for us. On the cities that we're comped with, my question has always been, if they have the same yearly annual budget that we do, and they're able to pay their employees more than we are, then I want to take a look at that and see how and why we're not able to get there. However, if their budgets are higher, if they have more revenue than the city of Terrell has, because that's the key. If their revenue's higher, of course, they're gonna be able to pay their employees more, because they have more revenue coming in. What I would like to know is, where do we compare with those that have the revenue that the city is bringing in, that are paying their employees more?
Right.
That's one thing.
Okay.
But again, if we're not up to market, shame on us if we can't find a way to get everybody and pay their value, right?
Right.
We need to do that. What I've seen in the past, though, is that we've taken an approach where we have so many people that are below market, and that we slowly try to bring everybody up at the same pace, and we're always behind.
Well, actually, that has some truth to it, but back to your statement on whether cities have a higher fund mechanism, revenue, than the city of Terrell. Well, it's all relevant, because I'm assuming that those cities also have expenditures. But at some point, then the focus becomes, you have to pay the workers, because why would you purchase a $2 million apparatus and you have a $13 an hour person operating it? So the thing is, you need to pay the people to do the work.
Well, again, we have to balance it all out.
Right, I mean,
This is why
it's a
we're-
balance, right, you are
This is why
correct.
we're having the discussion, and I'm glad you're here today, so that everybody understands that there's a balance that has to be had as a city and as us that are responsible, and how we get there is gonna be a challenge for all of us. We have budget constraints, as you mentioned, but we want to be fair and competitive. There's not any of us here that want to pay less than what we should be paying.
Oh, no
That's
doubt.
That's not our goal.
No, I process it as, it has to just be a priority, I mean, on what you're gonna do. That's simple. Where are your priorities for this fiscal year, because one of the disclaimers that I put is the 2.5% steps that we still have. It is slowly drifting. We've kicked the can down the road long enough that we have drifted away from market. And so the employees are the ones who are actually feeling that now, more so because of inflation being at 7.98%.
So I would say this, that if there's any additional revenue coming to the city, that probably our priority should be our employees. I'm fine with that. I mean, we are moving at a good pace on our streets and our other projects, but if we have additional money coming in and we want to use that for the employees, man, I'm all on board with that. What about?
Mayor, I agree. Not probably, I would say definitely. A lot of these, even city employees, I know, I went to high school with them. I want them to have, and you said two things that really stuck with me, competitive and fair. I want all of our employees to feel valued. I don't want to be doing this to this set of employees and then doing this to these. It makes people, it devalues people, it decreases their morale, and I don't want to have a part of anything that does that to people. I know the city, this council is very excited about the growth that's in the city of Terrell. With that growth, we need to bring along our employees, and we need to look out for our citizens as well. It's great that we're doing great, but if I have people in the community or employees that's not doing well, I tend to frown at that. So I know how excited we are about the growth, but we also need to ensure that we take care of our employees. And I challenge you, Mike, as the city manager, if you need to talk to me to kind of show me some things in the budget, I challenge you to find a way that we can get these employees an increase in their salary. It look like we're behind the market. I'm looking at that. I don't really fully understand the study and all that, but when I look at the way that was delivered, I can see that we're behind a little bit. But I want all of our employees to feel valued with this kind of growth that we're having in Terrell, Texas.
So I would say I've heard about the Ray study ever since 2016 when I got on council, and I'd say it's so old now, I don't know why we're using it. I would hope that we would just make market adjustments up until we got to 2024, meaning we should still continue to move up the ladder, but the Ray study is so old, and that's partly our fault. We might need to revisit
Yeah,
how often we do that
just as a
study.
note, it's in your 3-year strategic plan for us to do an update to that study here in the very near future. And I presume that council will rework the comp cities at that time, because I think that's one of the issues that comes up quite often is, okay, the world's changed since then. Maybe the comp cities are slightly different cities right now. I will address Councilwoman Thomas's comment, and that is, wow, I am thrilled to get that challenge. Thank you for saying that. Thank you very much.
And Mike, I'd also like to say, while this has mixed reactions on council, there's some hoorays and some boos and hisses. Hey, I've always thought that we should probably go figure out some kind of hybrid method on, rather than just a flat 3% or flat percentage across all employees. I don't know, the world is kind of merit-based. Probably not for fire and police. They have their own set of rules, but I'm gonna pick on Glenn Caldwell. He's, a department head sitting here. And when I think of the budgetary world for labor, in my world, the department head is given a bucket of money, which would equate to, let's say, a raise of 5%. And then the department head could have the ability to lower or up the percentage that an employee might get, meaning a top-tier employee, and I expect everyone to be top-tier, but a top-tier employee may get 5%, and maybe my B-plus employee gets 3%. So I think that's something that I think we've said before, that, hey, maybe there should be a little bit of a hybrid model come in. And hard to implement, right? And hard to implement while we're behind, right? It's really kind of a challenge for Mike and Carol. But I would say, for Mike and Carol, please note, I think grades 5 through 16, I think we do need to find a way to raise the wage. I mean, I agree, we're behind, and we need to do that sooner than later. And whether we raise that particular group by itself or stipend that group during an inflation period, we're probably going to need to do something sooner than later. So that's it. So I'm in favor of the moving up the hill, but man, I don't really care to reference the Ray study anymore. It's just too old. I don't know. Those are my comments.
Mike, you might can answer this. What kind of base, you said fire and police is not merit-based? How do they get those rates? Kind of explain that to me a little more. I don't
Under
really
civil
understand.
service, the idea is that all police who, tick through the annual year and say, okay, they had 0 year of experience being a sergeant, now they've got 1. Now they go from 1 to 2 and so on. Every time you hit one of your annuals, you go from step 1 to step 2, step 2 to step 3, and so on. So you often hear police and fire talk about being topped out. Topped out just means that they've reached the highest step available for them. So that's a very routine process. It has to do with state law. Carol monitors for that for us all the time. Ken and Shane out here, our chief of police and fire chief, they're all looking at that all the time to make sure that, they've got their folks in the right slots. So that's a very constrained program. On the civil side of it, I'll say more clearly, on the non-civil service, so we call that civilian. On the non-civil service, that's where there's more flexibility to introduce some of these different ideas that Councilman Royce has been an advocate for a long time. And I think we talked about in the 3-year strategic plan, trying to scrape through that topic and see, well, what does hybrid mean? What would that mean for those employees? So I think that's an important part of it. I want to also mention again the competitive and fair side of it. And I'll just tell this story. Council did a great thing with police, and I really appreciate it, and it was the right thing to do. Our police, we hire competitively we're hiring against Forney, Mesquite, Rockwall, and that sort of thing. So when y'all made the step to adjust police department salaries here in the fall of 2021, you really put us halfway between Forney and Mesquite. Okay, great. That means that when we're advertising for police officers, they can come in and we're fair, we're competitive, and we have a great way of doing that compensation. So that is functional right now, right? That's you know, there's always issues with recruiting police officers, but that's functional. The thing that's not functional right now, I will use an example, and I'll try to be as generic as I can about it. We have an equipment operator. They come forward and say, look, I've got a job opportunity to get a something like $4 an hour raise by going from City of Terrell to Able Springs Water Supply. Well, you would think that our salary levels would be such that we would be able to say, yeah, we can for sure keep that person. Well, that person's working at Able Springs this week, started on Monday, because we had to look at that situation and say, you know what, we're going to lose that person because we can't holistically address the 30 or 40 employees who are generally around those same pay groups as that individual was. So I'm looking at this saying, in order to achieve fairness, I probably have some highly tenured employees around here who, as Carol just mentioned, you know, they did not get a step increase, a tenure-based increase for 10 years, 15 years. We've done one since I was city manager for civilians, but that's just not cutting it, right? That's not getting separation between somebody who's really learned their craft because they're a 8, 9, 10, 15-year employee and somebody who's brand new at their craft with the City of Terrell. So that's a fairness issue and a competitiveness issue where we didn't intend to bring you a solution today because this is kind of a lengthy and complicated conversation, but I wanted to bring forward some of the facts. I wanted to give you a chance to ask Carol some questions. There's a bunch of background research that we put into the council packet for you. Fuel prices, January to January, up 32%. Wages in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Other employers have increased wages by 9.7% from January to January. The CPI, Carol mentioned, Dallas-Fort Worth CPI alone is 7.8%, and that's January to January. That didn't even take into account all of the oil shock that's happened in the last 2 months. So there's a lot of financial pressures out there. I've used the example a couple of times talking to folks here about the idea that if it used to cost you $45 to fill up your gas tank and now cost you $90 to put in your gas tank, hey, no fooling. We've got a set of employees who that hurts. You know, that extra $45 each week to fill up the gas tank or every other week to fill up a gas tank. Now that's not a discretionary thing anymore in their budget. Now they're slicing deep to try to figure out where to find that extra $45. And we care deeply about that. We want to address that. Jay Ayers and Carol and I have been looking at financials, trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to come back and present to council? In the next few weeks, we're going to move from problem conversation to what are our solutions? What solutions can we do immediately? What solutions might have to wait till October the 1st? But we want to address it. We want to address it aggressively. Carol's doing a great job helping us work through this process. So if you think of questions, let us know. The comp plan issue that Carol brought up, we're gonna get that emailed out to council here soon, so you can have a chance to take a look at some of those details if you're interested. And we just want to get your thoughts on it, get you engaged in it. And Mayor and I had a good conversation earlier today about the fact that, look, we're still in a world of uncertainty. Sales tax are coming in good right now. How long is that trend going to continue? We're going to have to make some projections and some educated guesses about that, and we'll do our best to give you a technical recommendation here soon and ask you to vet that, and hopefully we can move forward with something meaningful.
Carol, I appreciate you being here today and sharing the labor cost analysis. I can, certainly hear, your passion and your desire to make sure that we have a fair pay system for our employees. I do have some questions. How many pay grades do we have?
Right now, we have 41.
41 pay.
Right, but we have 4 that are open. for recruitment, where we may place employees. So we have 38 that are funded.
Okay, so 38 funded pay grades. And the
37, I'm sorry.
37 pay grades, and then it is the 5 through 16 pay grades that are the ones that are $2.07 behind the market. And that sounds like based on the race study.
Right. Let me just clarify on the Catherine Ray study. It's only aged by years, but the formula is current as of today. Okay. The issue is the comp plan has never been funded, but the formula is just as relevant today as it was back on October 1, 2014. So the science is the same.
So thank you, that's helpful. And could you give me an example of roles between the 5 to 16 pay grades in the organization?
I'm sorry?
Can you give me examples, job positions that we would find between in the 5 through 16 pay grades?
Yes, you will find custodial responsibilities. You will find maintenance workers. Now, generically, we call those maintenance workers, but they're actually laborers within water utilities, sewer collection, parks, public services, street operations, all those employees under public services. It also includes library personnel, housing departments, the actual clerks, and it includes administrative support, clerical support from grades 1 through 4. And it also includes more technical positions, the accounting technicians, communication specialists, and finance, some of the lower finance personnel.
Thank you. If we were to, when the city looks to do a new Catherine Ray study, would there be a reason why you believe we should not use Kaufman County as one of those competitors in a future study?
You mean members of Kaufman, the county itself?
Yes, the county itself.
When we say competitive and fair, we have rarely lost employees to a Kaufman County position. If when employees, besides for personal reasons, but if they're resigning for monetary growth, it is usually the larger metropolitan statistical area that we lose employees to.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's also a thought there that, and again, this will be council's discretion when it comes up. The further south you go, the further east you go, you start to lose comparability with our housing costs. And so that kind of makes it hard to use southern or eastern comp cities.
Then, you know what, I'm supportive of the staff and having, fair pay. I don't think the question today is, are we behind the market or in progressing in steps, since there has been a freeze for most of that. And I certainly, I will have to agree with Tim Royce that, I think I would be in favor of reviewing a performance/merit-based approach, and also looking to see, is that something that other cities do? But I would be more in favor of that when we finally catch up. I don't think that doing a performance/merit-based approach needs to be the first thing we look at, because I think there's no question about us being behind the market to begin with. But I would like us to see in the future, and council to consider, performance-merit-based approach, and maybe that's, Carol, you sharing, what that looks like in other cities, or is that something that cities don't do? I think we're very used to, or at least the corporate side of things, where we do have pay grades and we have the merit-based approach, the performance-based approach, but I don't know if that's the standard use in city governments. as an example. And I'll certainly, if you want to give us a short answer to that, is that something that we typically do in city governments, a performance/merit-based approach?
It's not typical because, and I'm glad you differentiated between public sector and private sector, because we are public sector and we are of service. And as Councilman Royce says, the merit-based program just generically would work where a tub of money would be awarded to a department director and then they could disperse it out.
Right.
When in service, from the naked eye, it may seem like an employee is lax. Specifically, if I'm talking about a water and sewer personnel. If there is a significant water leak or a main break, they have to actually wait for other entities, Encore and other entities, to come and do their portion before they can get to it. So from the naked eye, it may appear that they're not working because they're waiting. So if you were actually observing and deciding who's working because you see someone else actually performing a physical task, but because this guy is in this specialized field or person generically is waiting, does that mean they're not putting their worth because they cannot put the city in a liability situation by just digging and not knowing what's underground? So merit-based for service is a heck of a lot different than private sector.
It sounds like there may be some cities that do a merit-based approach, but you have to be careful in the way that you review performance and
Correct.
And award merit, because due to the example that you just gave.
And that's just a snapshot.
Sure, and in the past, I appreciate you, Carol, having kind of the slide on what the market is saying we need to be at and what we've actually done. I know recently, we've done increases for police and fire.
Yes.
And have shown support to give pay increases to our staff. I really would love to see, a formula approach that is fair in a market adjustment. And I don't know if that means saying from 5 to 16, and I know we're not here for an answer today, right? But
Right.
I'm saying from 5 to 16, we do an automatic 2%. Or if it's, from 5 to 16, if you're in this step, then we'll do now I'm making up a number here, we'll do a 5%. If you are in, pay grade 6, but you're on step 8, then you'll get X%. So I'm looking for that balance and fairness versus maybe doing a blanket, 5% across the board, and then you still have staff members that are very unbalanced. So that's what I would be afraid of. That's what I don't want to happen, for there still be some unfairness if we choose to go, the simplest route versus having a formula-based approach.
Right.
Now, I would say, I do kind of agree with the tiered, and I know we have to move on, but I do kind of agree with the tiered suggestion that May Ronnie had towards the end. Clearly, while everyone deserves a raise, if I have someone making $70,000, that's great. But if I've got someone under the poverty line, which is probably unacceptable, I probably need to focus on grades 5 through 8, right? And that's just a number, not saying that's it. So I do find some value in the tiered approach to bump the lower grades up maybe a little bit quicker. And also, those are the grades we can't fill the spots right now. I mean, there's some open spots that we just can't fill because we're just so not competitive in that
Correct.
That lower tier, if you will. So that's it from me.
Okay, I'm going to thank the council for the comments. Carol, this is what I would want to see is for the council to take no action would be shameful on us, right? Knowing what we know. But I want everything on the table. I want options for us moving forward, because we're not going to be able to solve the problem with just the stroke of the pen one time. We're going to have to take a balanced approach to getting everybody where we need them. But we can solve this issue. It's just gonna take some time, it's gonna take some effort. We may have to think outside the box as far as all of us, trying to solve this thing, but we can absolutely do it, and your presentation was good, and thank you for being here tonight.
You're welcome.
Mayor, you'll see a presentation not on the 29th. We'll put a little bit more work into it. We'll come back on April the 5th with some draft suggestions, and I'm not going to commit that we'll have something ready to vote on then, but I want to talk solutions at that time. So that should be your expectation, okay?
I would rather move cautious than quickly and make a mistake. I want to make sure that, Carol, one, you're okay with the direction that we're going.
Right.
Give us the options, and we'll just work through them. Again, I wish we had unlimited resources as far as revenue goes, but we don't, and so maybe we need to refocus.
And Carol, too, was there another document you prepared? I'd like you to email it to me or the staff.
Yeah, that's what's coming tomorrow. Yeah.
I want to see that,
Yeah.
'cause I don't know how that wasn't presented. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is to discuss ordinance number 2900, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, amending Chapter 9, Section 9-9, Civil Service Classification Plan, A, classification of firefighters, and B, classification of police officers, 9-9A, one positions appointed by Fire Chief, and 9-9A, two firefighter classifications, and 9-9B, one position appointed by Chief of Police, and 9.9B2, police officer classification, revised code of ordinances of the City of Terrell, Texas, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Again, this is Director of Human Resources, Carol Holland.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, you have before you ordinance number 2900. Did you pull it up? Yeah. Let's make sure that it's. As you know, we've talked a lot about the difference between civil service and non-civil service. The police department and the fire department operate under Chapter 143 of the State of Texas Local Government Code. So this is procedural whenever there is a recommendation for the chief, either fire or police, to restructure their department. So we held a Civil Service Commission meeting on March, I think it was March 3rd, wherein the police chief, Kenneth McKeon, presented to the commission his desire to restructure the police department. He has asked that his positions of patrol officer be reduced by one to add a position to his sergeant rank, move the sergeant's number, increase it from 3 to 4, and then reduce the actual patrol number from 30 to 29 so that he would be able to have.
I'm going to clarify on page 38 is where if you're on page 38.
Yes.
I think the clarification there is when we recently updated this to add the two new sworn officers, we went from 28 patrol officers to 30 patrol officers. So the council remember doing that fairly recently. And then as we did the civil service test, the identification was that it would be preferable for us to have a supervisor in that narcotics field.
Correct.
And so therefore, it's the recommendation, and it's not shown on this piece of paper. When we bring it back for a vote, it will be on the piece of paper, but it'll be a change from 30 patrol officers down to 29, and then sergeant goes from 4 to 5.
Correct.
But
At the same base salary, you're just increasing one classification and decreasing another. So the bottom line is the same amount of civil service personnel.
Carol, if you will, will you repeat that one more time for me so I can hear what those changes are, what those proposed changes are in the number of staff unit and the title?
Right. If you have it before you, for an amplifying police department, the next page on 38, the captain Yeah, the captain would still be a number of 3. Lieutenants would be 7. Sergeant would increase to 5. And patrol officer would decrease to 29. So the numbers, bottom line, the numbers will still be the same. There just needs to be an addition within the rank of sergeant.
That's gonna come to the council next week.
Yes.
It doesn't change. We're still appointing the same number of people into narcotics, but what we are doing is establishing one of those individuals to be a street-level sergeant supervisor. As the number increases in that division, and we'll continue to add people as time goes on, we need a supervisor who's with them out on the street. So we had the opportunity with the sergeant's test just recently. We got qualified people on that list, and it gave us the opportunity to promote one to fill an empty sergeant's position that was created by someone leaving, and then to establish a new sergeant's position in narcotics. And just go forward.
Yeah, the bottom line is, and I'm only speaking budget, not filled positions. Budget-wise and civil service ordinance-wise, the intent was to go from 2 narcotics to 4 narcotics. This keeps 4 narcotics. It simply makes one of the 4 the sergeant who's in charge.
Absolutely.
A bit more of guidance as being in a management position.
Correct. Yeah, he won't be a desk person.
Yeah, that was my concern.
He'll be out working.
I was concerned about that with public safety, reducing the patrol, just when you think about response time and, okay, but he still will be available to the public for safety
They
on the
have
street.
there's a lieutenant currently in narcotics, and he's an administrative person, so he helps out on the street, but he's not full-time on the street. So with the addition of this sergeant, who will be a full-time street person, will also be a supervisor out there while they're conducting their business out on the street. Just like our patrol units have patrol officers and a sergeant out working all the time. It just gives that ability to the narcotics unit. Yes. We're still trying to fill the bottom ranks, so we can pull from patrol to add 2 into narcotics for a total of 4. We can't pull them right now because then we cripple our patrol operation.
I think this would be a great time to advertise the next civil service, or the next police officer test.
April 8th. So if you're looking for career change.
If you know anybody, April the 8th, get them hooked up with Carol, because we would sure love them to come on in and test.
When is the last test that we had?
We tested,
I have to look on my calendar.
no, we tested February the 26th.
Okay, and how many people did we have test?
That we had 12 or 13 show up.
Yeah, 14 to show up.
Yeah, we had one that made it all the way through, and his background was atrocious. So
You know what?
He didn't get the memorandum about drug use and other things. So.
Again, hey, it's difficult to get hired, but that's a good thing because we know we have good quality officers on the street.
Right. Would one of you just email me or all of council if we do any bonus in the beginning, so we don't have to get deep into it tonight? I'm just kind of curious.
All right.
I have one more question. Looking at this change, this is about 24, 25 grand, bumping this officer up. What other responsibilities will this sergeant have? I'm not very versed in that as far as his responsibility?
Sergeant is the decision maker out on the street. So at a particular scene, he's the one that makes sure that everything's done within policy, that it's legal. He's the one that reviews warrants and makes sure the warrants are done correctly. So he's kind of the administrator out in public. And then the lieutenant is more of an administrator inside the building with payroll and time, and did you show up, is your sick leave right, you know, all that kind of stuff.
All right, everybody good?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much.
Carol. Our next item on the agenda is 8.3, discuss Tyler Technologies contract. This is True North, and John Cross is representative.
Mayor and Council, I'll give you the introduction, of course, that True North serves as our virtual IT department, and they've been doing a lot of work for us. So one of them is, as John and I were talking today, contract negotiations for software, and that's a really important point. So take it away, John.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and distinguished council and guests. So what I'm going to do is just give you a quick update on where we are with all of this. You'll recognize some of these slides. And I've just updated a few of them. Okay, all right. So what we are ultimately trying to do, we're calling this the Digital Front Door Project, right? We want to get into the modern world with everything from our citizens to our employees to make sure that they have all the software access components that they need to do their job and do it well, especially on the administrative side, right? We expect to achieve multiple layers of efficiencies within just the overall conducting of business within the city. And just make sure that's the right one. I think that, yeah. We're looking for one called, should be version 2. So Tyler Technologies offers a number of platforms. This is the repetitive part. You guys have heard this already, but within the city itself, city proper, it's the Munis product, and they offer a module that basically the entire city, almost every aspect of the city can operate against, which includes the ERP, finance, accounting, HR, payroll, time tracking, resource management. We could generally call that human capital management. They have the civic services, everything from GIS, asset management, those kinds of things. What we are proposing right now is just finance, accounting, and human capital management. Once we get that foundation installed within the city for Munis, then we'll go back later in subsequent phases and roll out the rest. For public safety at the PD, we have, it's on the public site as well, if it's easier to pull up that way from the public agenda. Public-facing side. For public safety at the PD, the product is called New World, and it would basically comprise all of the components of the sort of day-to-day operations of the PD. And then for courts, the product is called Encode, and it would be for all aspects of the municipal court. So I won't belabor the current state. We know what the current state is. We have lots of different applications doing different point functions. What this platform allows us to do is have one consistent ERP across the city for the city side, and then there will be a component for the PD. But what that means is one record that exists for one function in the city exists for every function in the city. One employee record, one document, electronic document, e-signatures, all of those kinds of things. Makes it easy to find documents, backup, whatever it is that you're looking for, it's all there and easily to be retrieved and also easily auditable. And so it just makes it nice all the way around. So with that, I'll move on to the cost proposal. So if you're looking at your paper version, here we go. Yep, next one, or can I do it here? Yep, this one, there we go. Yep. So what we've done, this is just an update from the previous slide, and I have that one in here too at the end. But for Munis, on the city side, you see the one-time cost, the recurring cost. You see the discounts that have already been applied that we've been able to negotiate. New World and Encode. And then in the second middle box, we would require some new hardware, some server-side hardware, some storage and those kinds of things to install over at the PD. That would be a one-time cost. There would be some labor that we don't have factored in today, which you see in the bottom box there with a project manager to kind of manage and coordinate this whole thing across the board. And then I highly recommend a 15% contingency on a project of this size. And so that's what is in this number. So next page. So you can see here that the totals come out with software and services one time, hardware one time, the city labor and the miscellaneous comes out to be 1.76 million. And then the recurring cost of roughly 240,000 per year going forward. Good. And then what this little table just shows you is what the impact would be on the budgets for the next few years, next 3 years. So in 2022 would be proposed at 708, 612, and 445 subsequently. Now, we are in the process. The reason why I actually call this in the previous slide, this is the proposal budget -1, means that we've got one more round of negotiation to go back to Tyler with. And in that, we will be looking to minimize the impact to this year's budget because this project ultimately was not budgeted for this year. We had some similar projects budgeted, and so we do have some funds available in the budget for that. And so what we're going to do is try to get this number, the impact of this project in this FY down to what we had originally budgeted in this year for discretionary projects. Does that make sense? If not, happy to delve into that a little more if we need to. This was the original cost analysis that I put together. It's just here for reference more than anything, but you can see in the right-hand side, upper right-hand side, that little current budget analysis, you can see there that we had some new software, some new project, and some new hardware line items in our this year's budget that we can use to help offset some of the cost for this year's implementation or starting of the implementation of this project. And then the next slide, this is our proposed Gantt chart for how we would go about rolling out this product. With financials being first, we've got to get that done because that ultimately is the core and the foundation of everything that the way in which Munis operates. Then from there, you'll see on the bottom line there is human capital management. Those two are linked together. You do finance first, then you do HCM. The other lines in between, the public safety bits, the municipal courts, e-citations, which is related to public safety, those can be adjusted slightly. So going back to the previous slide on when we might have budget impacts for this year versus next year, this will be one of the items that I'm going to work with Tyler to move some of the start of these other sub-projects later in this FY or even starting in FY23 so that there'll be less impact in
and I'm just going to pause there to emphasize this point. Phase 1, where it's financials, that is the absolute crucial thing to get started. You don't do the human capital management until you have your financials correct because you're building a base upon which the human capital gets plugged into, okay? So if you look at this, there's a little bit of similarity here with the public safety, municipal court, and e-citations. Those all get plugged in to public safety after you got started on public safety. So we can save some money in this fiscal year by backing up when we do the enterprise public safety. That pushes back courts, that pushes back e-citations. That's some cost savings that we want to take advantage of. Not that we won't do it, but that we'll start it in October as opposed to starting it in April or May. We're efficient. We're operating right now in public safety. We'll survive in public safety by delaying it. But right now, finances has just got to get fixed, and I can't go into jumping into the human resources side of it until we finish the financial implementation. So this is the big key thing here for staff is that we really want to get started on item 1 as soon as we can. Anyway, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I don't have a slide for this, but just to kind of give you an update, a verbal update on kind of where we are in the process. So we've been through a number of rounds of discussions with Tyler, both in terms of function. We did the due diligence with the PD. We did the due diligence on the city side to make sure that we were buying the modules in this first round that we needed that would make the most impact and be the most viable. We did all of that. We've exchanged contracts, so we've got some terms from their MSA, and we've already gone through red lines with that. We're in the final bits of negotiating on that. We also have the SOW in our hands, which would be the implementation project for doing all of this work. And we are looking at that right now for red lines. So between the MSA, the SOW, and the financials, we're very near to having those to a position where we can present those to council.
John, your military experience is showing. Could you spell out those acronyms for everybody, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, which ones? I'm so used to them.
MSA.
Okay,
SOW.
MSA, Master Services Agreement, or the Software Hosting Agreement, which is, I think, what they call it. The SOW is the Statement of Work for actually doing the implementation project. So the Statement of Work is a subsidiary legal document to the Master Services Agreement. And then we have the final bits of the financials to work out, which may or may not adjust these numbers slightly, but it will certainly adjust the payment schedule. That's really the piece that we need to negotiate out.
So, is it mostly software? There's no hardware involved in all of this? Or
It is mostly software. So the Munis product is a SaaS environment, so it is a software as a service, so it's a hosted environment in the cloud. So in that sense, there won't be any physical hardware in any city facility. With New World on the PD side, that's where we will have hardware, and that'll be in our data center over at the police department.
So my concern with the hardware is the supply chain issues and possibly delays in delivery of those.
So the good news is industry-wide, we are seeing a lessening of that now with the war and other things that has the tendency to kind of start tightening that down a little bit more. But what we would do is once we get council's agreement on the entire package, irrespective of when we're actually going to start the PD and all of that, it'll all be one package, I think, that we're going to present for authorization to move forward. And then from there, we will make the order and we'll try to time it. We'll get estimates from our hardware partners, and we'll try to time it so that that is installed and ready to go whenever we start the software implementation.
I think John just made a really important point there, and I want to kind of restate it. This all comes to council fairly soon as one fully negotiated package agreement. I'll call it a package agreement because we're going to be doing a series of things over a series of years, and we need to be under contract for all of that work.
That's right.
Anybody have any comments, questions of?
Okay, so council, I have with me tonight as well Mr. John Atkins, who is with Tyler Technologies, and he works on their business development side. He's not the person that I have been working with, but he is certainly a colleague of the one that I've been working with who couldn't be here tonight, so John's agreed to be here. And what I've asked him to do is to really just come and give the particulars of Tyler. I want everyone to understand that Tyler is a very reputable organization and certainly has a massive presence when it comes to municipal software and municipal governments, especially here in Texas. And so I wanted to give them an opportunity to voice all of that to you and also give you an opportunity to ask of Tyler any specific questions about the company that you might want. So with that.
Thanks, John. Good introduction. That's all I need to say is echo what he said. But my name is John Atkin, and I am one of the account executives that have been working with John and the city to demonstrate and put together proposals for the city to evaluate. I wanted to just take a couple minutes to give you a brief overview of Tyler Technologies and then answer any questions that you guys might have about Tyler. So this is Tyler's by the number. So when I travel around and I visit with a lot of our clients, I ask them, why do you select Tyler? What's your main reasons for selecting Tyler? A lot of the responses I get are We select Tyler because of your strength and stability. The other reason is clients' satisfaction, and the third reason is innovative technology. So as you can see by these numbers, Tyler is the largest company solely dedicated to local government. We have software for every department within a local government. You can see by the number of locations that we have installed, over 27,000 different implementations at 11,000 different sites. It's also interesting to note that our client retention is 98%. So once somebody partners with Tyler, they rarely leave Tyler. And the reason why they don't is because of our client satisfaction. And they get their client satisfaction because of our team members. So 5,500 team members support all of our products. It's good to know when the city calls in if they have questions about their ERP system. They're going to get a dedicated team that solely dedicates the ERP. So you're looking at software for all of your departments within your city. So if ERP calls into Tyler, they're going to get a specialist that supports the ERP. If they call into court, they're going to get a specialist that supports Tyler. And 40% of our team members have worked in the public sector. So meaning they've used our software in a live environment. And so when you call in, a lot of times you're going to get somebody that has direct experience working with the software, and you're definitely going to get somebody that's been with Tyler for over 10 years, because the majority of our employees have been with Tyler for over 10 years. And you're going to get somebody that is dedicated to your software in your department. So there's many different companies out there as you go through your evaluation. There's large national companies that maybe don't focus strictly on local government. Maybe they're looking and supporting multiple different industries. And then there's many smaller local and regional companies that might be focused on a single product, but they may only do one department. They don't do all the departments within a local government. So Tyler is uniquely positioned in that we are the only company out there that is a single-focused national company. So we only focus on government, and we provide all the different software for all the different departments within a local government. More strength and stability in the state of Texas. So we have been doing software in the state of Texas for over 35 years. These are some of our installs. We have 2,000 clients in Texas. We have 1,200 employees in the state of Texas. There is a good chance that there's some employees at Tyler that lives in your city. We have 4 locations throughout the city. Our headquarters is in Plano, Texas. We can do from the smallest cities to the largest cities. So we have a city that only has 134 people, and we have counties. Our largest county, Harris County, has 4.6 million people living in that county. So we can do software for any size of city, and we have many clients in the state of Texas similar to the size of your city. So, and it's also, when you're selecting a company, you want somebody to partner with that isn't going to go away. We've seen a lot of companies come and go when it comes to software. You can be assured that Tyler is a financially strong company with very little debt. We're proud of this, that we have 60 consecutive quarters of double-digit growth. What that means is we're going to have the resources to invest back into our clients and the resources to invest back into the products to make sure the cities have the best tools, the most robust systems to be able to perform their duties and do their jobs, as easy as possible. So solutions working together to simplify complex operations. So we recognize that cities have very complex operations, and so all of our systems can talk together and share data. So our systems, from our public administration to our courts and public safety, we have solutions for schools and even federal. We have systems for data and insights. If you need to have a system to pull data out of all your systems and compile them in one location so you can make better business decisions based on the data, we're able to help with that. And then with cybersecurity, we have the state-of-the-art cybersecurity systems that we use that will protect your data and your application. So I mentioned customer service and I mentioned customer satisfaction. So these are the things that make our cities so satisfied. Some of these things like Tyler Community, this is like a social networking platform for our cities. We have 72,000 users on Tyler Community, and they meet together often through this online web portal where they can share ideas, share best practices. I work strictly with municipal court clients, and a lot of my clients will say, hey, I'm trying to do a report for XYZ. Can you help me do that? And then another city will reach out and say, yeah, I've done that report before. And then they will share how they did that report and how they wrote that report. So there's a lot of sharing in the community. So you're not alone when you select Tyler. You have the support from Tyler and dedicated people, but you also have local cities that also support each other through Tyler Community. And then through Tyler Connect, which is our national user group meeting that we have. This year we're having a national meeting in Indianapolis, and that's where all of our cities come together to share best practices and to learn more about what's going on with Tyler and our software and our tools. And then our Evergreen, or Ever Guide policy, that's just our policy saying that we are committed to product development. So like I mentioned, we have a lot of people giving us ideas on improvements to incorporate into the software. And we take those and we incorporate into the software, but we don't make anybody pay for those additional features. So this goes right along with our Evergreen philosophy. You only have to invest in the software one time. So you'll always be assured that you're going to be on the latest version of the software. So you're never going to have to, we're never going to say, okay, you need to move to version 11 now, and then make you pay for new license fees. Every enhancement, every upgrade is going to be included in the package. So I think, is that the last? So the bottom line is we're going to give your employees the tools necessary that they can make their, help them do their jobs efficiently, be productive, and all the time my clients I work with, they're clerks in the court, and sometimes they have to stay extra long hours to make sure they're updating all their cases. And so the biggest example is one of my clerks, I went into her office and it was covered with file folders. We were able to take those file folders and convert them electronically, and then her desk was completely clean, and she was able to leave at 5 o'clock. So that's the goal, and that's what our software does. So thank you.
You touched briefly on something that I had concern with, is that the city is getting the newest technology that's available, one.
Yep.
Right? And then if you have updates, are they costly? Are those additional costs to us? But you answered that and you said no.
Right.
It would not be.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay,
John
thank
and
you.
John, just spelled different.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Next item on the agenda is discuss development agreement for 6th Street Partnership. Are we doing stuff in Austin now, or what's this? 6th Street.
We have our very own 6th Street,
All right.
sir.
Let's go.
All right.
Our Director of Municipal Development, Charles Fenner.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Before you is a developer's agreement. As you know, we've been working through several of these with property owners that come in. A lot of these infill lots, some substandard lots with different sizes, some vacant lots that we need some development. And so we go through the negotiation process. There may be some variances needed and so forth. And so we're able to work up something with these guys. RCA 3 is Mr. Reyes. You have worked with him on the Mineral Wells project. We did a developer's agreement there. There was 20 lots there in that subdivision. A very fine couple that have come out of Dallas and are investing a lot here in to the community, and so we like what they do, and so they've really worked with us a lot. So and they're looking to do more and make good things happen. So in the first agreement, we're going to just focus on a couple things on page 2. Remember, we just do this thing where we have the company obligations and then we have the city obligations of what we're going to allow in this agreement for the exchange. So there will be this particular property or developer's agreement will require 100% brick and stone. first floor, and then 80% brick and stone on the second floor, with an additional 3 architectural elements on the front facade to adjust for some of that. So that's been somewhat of our standard with a lot of these agreements. Be a little bit of additional landscaping per the site plan. They'll plant some trees and help create treescapes where we need, streetscapes where we need to. And then one thing that we'll have here is the covered porch will be able to extend 3 foot into the setback of the property. So that's an allowance there. The minimum floor standards, everything else will follow the SF6 rules on this particular piece of property. So if you go back to, or go to page 4, excuse me, by doing this, this will allow this property to be subdivided in 2 lots. We changed the ordinance to the 65-foot width for the SF6. We started working on this before. However, this is, I believe, 127 foot by 100 foot a lot. They subdivide this. This will be a 263-foot lot, so it's essentially just 2 foot off the requirement on the frontage. And so that's where we see the exchange for all that. The rest of it is in line with our standards. So we have a 3-foot setback, front porch setback, and we have a 2-foot lot reduction on the minimum lot width. So it'll be a 6,300 square foot lot and 2 houses built. You have any questions for me?
Council, again, this is just a example of how these development agreements work for the city and for us and for the developers as well. And it's better when we're all working together instead of against each other. So,
yes, sir.
Having comments, questions on this?
Question on the address. What is the address of the 6th Street Partnership?
0.
Or what intersection?
It's
or
vacant,
in?
so it's, just had to ask me that. It's right in the middle
It's close to
block.
Lawrence in Maine.
If you just bear with me a little bit.
I'm going to call that District 5. And I'm going to say,
Between Lawrence
You're gonna say what?
I'm gonna assume that is it in between Lawrence and Maine, those middle
I
lots?
believe, yes, I'm what he was saying, but I was gonna,
I need my bonus $1 for having that right.
you get that.
All right, Tim, what do you got?
okay, I'm good with it.
You good?
Good.
And just to let you know, this creates,
Good partnership.
then they'll replat 2 lots. Median value as a MLS today is, the median value is about $320,000 listing price. So that means half or below, half or up. So that's close to what some of these houses they're doing here, so. these are
Next
these are
item on
things.
the agenda is discussing development agreement for 900 South Catherine Street Partnership. Again, Charles Fenner.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, again, another agreement. This is a lot that's already small, and so we have to remember that we have to remember some of these grandfathered issues of already existing lots. It does create some issues sometimes with setbacks and so forth, but if they have a 40-foot lot and they want to try to develop on it and it's already been platted prior to, legally we have to work with them. So our best approach here is to go through the developer's agreement instead of variances to the setback. Same thing, high percent, 100% quality brick and stone. And then second floor, if there's a second floor, will be 25%. The lot and regulation, the city variance variance for the lot width to be 44 feet. Now, again, you can't do anything about that because that's existing. The minimum variance to the side yard setback, 5 feet. That is a variance we're working into this agreement. And then the square footage of the house will be 1,700 square foot to allow them to, fit it to where it works out on the lot appropriately. Same standards that we try to throw in there with creating our streetscapes, additional tree planted from a tree list, and allowing the setback, the covered porches to be extended into the front yard setback another 3 foot. So that doesn't do us any, that doesn't do anything but bring that structure that's a porch that we like to see and that we've had in this ordinance for some time. So that doesn't really hurt us at all. And then again, SF6 standards, anything else that does not fall on this. So you're getting the 40-foot lot, which is already there. We're giving them the variance on the 5-foot yard setback, the 1,700 square foot dwelling, and then we're getting the 100% brick for that.
Same group, same.
Same, yes, sir.
Right.
Mr. Reyes.
Charles, what's the length of the driveway from, what's the length of the driveway? I just don't see a map on this one.
Well, there'll be the setbacks in the SF6 will be the same thing. It'll be a 20-foot setback.
For the driveway? Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that we don't show, and even the site plan, some of the site plans don't always give the exact dimensions. They're showing you what they could do for the layout. They're still gonna have to meet the standards for the.
Is the setback just 20 foot on FS6?
SF6,
Oh, is there a map? I'm sorry, Don.
you'll have a 25-foot front yard setback. And then the porch can set back 3 foot into that.
Charles, are you directing everybody, I think, to
Don pointed
page
it out.
76?
Yep. So that's it. So just making sure.
Sorry.
Okay,
No questions.
anyone else?
Charles?
Yes, ma'am.
The address to this home, is this it's the vacant lot that's next to the house on the corner?
That is correct. This one is, the address on this one is the 900 South Catherine.
Yeah.
And, yes, so, and what are you asking?
No, I was confirming that that was the lot beside the house and the vacant lot. And I will say that I've had community members share concerns of the upkeep of the vacant lot, so this would be something, I believe the surrounding neighbors would be happy to see that it's
Right.
will be kept up after that.
You know, years ago when we were doing the BSC and dealing with code enforcement and doing the property maintenance code, I did the real estate report and tied a lot of that stuff into some of those lots that were infilled because there wasn't as much going on back then. And you could really tie into substandard housing where people were complaining and the structures falling down, and then to tearing those down to people actually rebuilding on them, and the values increase and the neighbors are much more happier. So this does help, and we definitely do have those complaints. And so people like this that are going in there that have an idea I mean, we will really have people come in and say they want to do 4 or 5 lots, and then they want variance from the porch standard, they want variance from this or that just that don't make sense, and they'll just go away. You know, and then we have these people that say, you know, we want to make it really good. So they stick to it. If we can work through a little variance process to get them a little deeper back, if we can let them have the porch in front and things like that, it all works out because you can't really tell on some of this stuff. So we get a lot more quality.
Thank you.
And affordability. So.
I appreciate you guiding them over to District 3 and would certainly encourage you to continue doing so.
Well, that's the only district we're going to because we've told them we don't want them to go to Councilmember Royce's district over there. We just like the trash and stuff to be.
All right. Thank you,
All
guys.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Our next item on the agenda, discuss modification request number 2 for 20-18, downtown revitalization program phase 2, Grove Street for additional sidewalk improvements. This is our Director of Public Services, Glenn Caldwell.
Good
It's a
afternoon.
while since you've been here, man.
Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah, it has.
A few weeks. Mr. Mayor, Council, It's always a great honor and pleasure. I think I'll do more introductions than anything with this particular item. I think I'll make you all excited, or will make you all excited. I have Dalton Akins with Public Management. He's our grant administrator. We have Frank Stevens, our engineering consultant that worked on this project. A few weeks ago, we came forward with Modification 1, which was the Downtown Revitalization Project, which was a block grant. Of course, in that project, we submitted and received favorable bids. Of course, the grant was $435,000, and the bids came back at a record low $271,089, which means we have a surplus of funds. So with that, I'm going to have you turn over to page 78 to kind of emphasize a little cover on this particular project. This particular project allows us to eliminate conditions in slum, bright improvement, provide improvements to public safety, and encourage economic investment in the designated Grove Street area. So obviously it's a sidewalk project. We included a map, and we also included the scope of work that we're allowed to work within. So the next thing I want to say before I turn it over to Dalton is on page 79, we have a probable cost estimate from our consultant. And rest assured, this probable cost estimate, the streets identified does not line up with the map that Mr. Dalton's going to go over, but at the end of the day, we'll come back with a probable cost estimate identifying some new streets we identified versus the one that's part of this. The most important part of that is the dollar amount. We want to spend the surplus funds associated with this grant. Now, I'll let Dalton take over.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me out here tonight. This is the map we're going to talk about. This is going to be submitted with the second performance statement modification. It has improvements, sidewalks, curb and gutter, drainage. This is on South Medora Street and on Cottage Street. So working with Glenn and Frank, we established these locations as needing, these improvements, and we're very thankful that these bids came in low. This is not something that happens often, especially in the current market, and so we're excited about this opportunity for the city of Terrell to get these needed improvements and continue this vision for this downtown area. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just want to fill in just for clarity here, because this is a really complex funding program. First question might be, why on earth do we have such a strange shape within which we are allowed to do these sidewalk projects? And the answer is our grant agency said so. And then the next question is, well, how do we decide what sidewalks to build in this zone? And the answer to that one is, we're doing our best to find sidewalks that are needed and that we won't rip up when we do the town square project. So that's the idea, and if you go with this recommendation, all you're doing is you're taking the yellow sidewalks on the map and you're adding them to the purple ones. We already got bids on the purple, and we want to add the yellow.
And I'll add, Mr. Mayor, Council, it's always a great day to see the city of Terrell making improvements in areas of our community by providing sidewalks for connectivity.
And to clarify, all the area that's highlighted in what I'll call a transparent color or white is the area that we're allowed to expend the funds in.
That's correct. That was the downtown area that was established in the application. That's what's been approved by TDA.
So grants are specific on where and how you can spend those things. So
Absolutely.
That's why we're just spending the money.
And I'm glad that you pointed out that we are not looking at areas where we would ultimately come back in and reduce. So we're certainly going to make sure to mention that, so you beat me to it. Are there any areas, as I try to remember the exact boundaries for the future downtown park area, and I'm looking at this map, are there any streets or any sections of any blocks here that we could have considered that would not have been torn up? So I know which ones we're not choosing to consider at this time.
That's actually why we end up making changes from our original modification to that we were going to bring to you. That's why we made the changes that you see today.
Yeah, so like Broad is an example. We'd love to do some sidewalks on Broad. There's some locations where we already have sidewalks on Broad. And then there's the pending attempt or the current attempt to purchase the 2 vacant lots that are north of Broad, south of the railroad tracks. Well, when we build parking lots there for downtown, that's going to change the lay of the land, and we would likely tear that out. You know, the town square is roughly defined as Broad to Newton, Francis to Adelaide, so that's a big chunk of it. The west side of this already has sidewalks that were installed as part of Safe Routes to School. Then I go over to the other side on Virginia, and the Paddock Board will get a presentation Friday morning about how we're working through the process on our complete streets evaluation on Virginia. So that's Spur 226, and we have some grant eligibility on Spur 226 to make changes on Spur 226, so therefore it didn't make sense to use that edge of the boundary either. So it's kind of this big process of elimination game of where can we spend the money. And hey, I'm thrilled to do a sidewalk on Medora. I think that's a terrific little extension for us.
Well, and I appreciate you, I appreciate staff coming back with a different map than what was originally proposed, because my recommendation would be, to spend funds in the neighborhood areas, knowing that we have a future project for the park that would tear up streets otherwise in the or sidewalks otherwise in the future, and giving doing our best to provide sidewalks where those existing homes are, to provide walkability for our community members in this area. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is discuss resolution number 2000, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, adopting the City of Terrell Hazard Mitigation Plan, Action Plan, as required by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TENM, and establishing an effective date. This is our Emergency Management Coordinator, Dustin Connor.
Mayor, Council, I'm just glad to be here and not be talking about COVID, so
Right.
we got that going for us.
Agreed.
If you haven't already seen the book, it's really good reading. We're going to go page by page.
I've already read it.
And just work our way through it. So in January, the county renewed their hazard mitigation plan, which is something that we've been a part of from the beginning. Every 5 years, we're required to update the hazard mitigation plan. It's kind of a grading or benchmark thing for us. We look at what we said or what we identified as hazards in our area, what we fixed, what new hazards we've identified. And so that's what this is just a renewal of that plan. The plan that you have is for the entire county. So there's very little in there that's just the City of Terrell. A lot of the things that they identified were out in the county. So, but there are some things in there. And just so you kind of have an idea, there were 17 action items on our last hazard mitigation plan adoption. And we have taken, we've removed 4 things that have been completed, and just kind of some examples of those. One of those is the drainage issue that they redid and then added the sidewalk down at Rockwall, from Rockwall to 1300 South Adelaide. And then the other one is up by the administration building for Terrell ISD, the drainage rework, the flooding issues that we had over there before. So those are projects that were identified by the hazard mitigation plan that have since been corrected. So some things will just always be on the hazard mitigation plan just because they're always going to be a hazard and they're always going to be here. So just know there'll be some things that just kind of recur. But this is important for us because it opens up grant dollars for us. There's a hazard mitigation grant program that requires the adopting this. So like I said, the county adopted it back in January, and now it's the municipality's turn to do that. So that's where we are.
We'll look forward to passing this along. Four down and 13 to go, I guess, huh?
Like I said, some of them will stay. Some of them will always be there. You just can't do anything about hail, lightning, or there was a few others in there.
Well, again, thank you for presenting this. This is important as the city tries to get funding and grants. This will absolutely help us in the long run.
And as usual with giant documents that we hand out, you know, if you see something in there, shoot an email to Dora. Dora will get your question over to Dustin, or you can call Dustin, and happy to get a question answered if you find something you have a question about in there.
I do have a question. You mentioned specific number of items that are hazard items. Where could I find that list in this document?
Well, that is, it's at the back. Of course it is, right? So we're all the way back at 16-150. So 16-150 is where we start. And there are 14 action items in there. We added a new one this year, so. Now don't skip all the stuff.
150. Yeah, I think they're just numbered.
It's down here at the bottom.
6150. I think the numbering is off on these, but
So I think we're after.
Yeah, so just for clarification, there's a 16150 where they seem to have accidentally numbered all of Talty's the same.
Oh,
But if you get
great.
to 16151, you can see that city of action item number 2. The page just before that is our action item number 1. And then you get action items 3, 4, 5, so on from there. So easiest thing, find 16151, and that's where you pick up and go from there. So they're just giving you an example there of some stream restoration, and then there's tree trimming, and there's backup generators, and da-da-da-da-da. So those are good to look at. I'd encourage you to take a look at them, and like I said, if you've got questions, just you can shoot the email to Dora if you need to, and we'll get you an answer.
Okay, Dustin, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
I need a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
motion to recess for
We
5
have a
minutes.
motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Tim Royce. All in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion will carry. Thank you. Are we ready? Okay. Roger's just losing patience back there. Are you missing the Aggies? Are the Aggies playing? All right. We're going to reconvene into regular session. At this time, we're at item 9.1, discuss and consider agreement for professional services for Highway 205 utility relocation design. This is our Assistant City Engineer, Mike McKeska. Go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay. We discussed this item a couple of weeks ago. This agreement for professional services is for, basically for design to relocate water and sewer mains, an agreement with KSA. Along 205, roughly between the Encore facility on up north of Colquitt. And the main driver for this contract is TxDOT widening 205. They're taking additional right-of-way where our sewer main parallels the existing right-of-way, and we have a water main, 20-inch water main crossing in that area that's going to have to be extended east and west to get outside of the proposed right-of-way. TxDOT currently has a letting date scheduled for February of '24, so a little under 2 years, and so we're anxious to get going on the design and then award the construction next year, try to meet their end of construction or be substantially complete within about 2 years. That's our target. We also have one, and I'm sorry, this is on a map on page 85. I forgot to say that. The blue line also towards the left side of the page represents a 16-inch water main that is on our CIP to install and close a gap in the system, and this would be a good time to go ahead and do the design work for that as well. So the agreement is a task order agreement, and actually the task order itself is all the way on page 143 of this. And bear with me if I can get there. Okay. Starts on page 143, and it basically references some exhibits at the end of that task order that has a little more detailed information. This is going to be about 4,000 or 5,000 feet of sewer pipe, and then some 12-inch and 20-inch water main, and then the 16-inch for the new gap. On page 146 is a cost breakdown. So kind of winding this down here, the cost is broken out into lump sum for design services, environmental documentation prep, and then the second table is actually estimates for different items such as survey, construction phase services, easement preps, TXDOT coordination, SUE work, and so forth. And these are hourly rate and reimbursables, so the total cost is not to exceed $473,400 is the negotiated cost, and the lump sum will be billed as it states, and then the second table, which is the hourly rate and reimbursables, will be actually based on actual cost. Okay, so basically the recommendation is to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with KSA. This would be funded through the utility capital reserve, and again, not to exceed amount $473,400. And if you have any questions.
Anybody have any new questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 9.1?
Mayor, make a motion that we authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with KSA for items described in 9.1 in an amount not to exceed $473,400.
We have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a second from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion will carry. Item 9.2 is to discuss and consider agreement for professional services to prepare a South Alley master schematic. This again is Mike McKesson.
Okay, yes, this is an agreement with SPI, and Frank Stevens is here. He has been working on this some, working with different consultants. Just a brief summary on page 152. We have a map of this area in question, and a lot of work is going on, a lot of activities from different consultants. SPI is doing the water and sewer design. And been coordinating with UPRR on approvals and encroachments and how we can get approval to lay water and sewer and roadways in the area or not, and then what are our alternatives. And then you have Kimley Horn doing work on quiet zones. You have Robinette Engineering doing work on electrical improvements, and then there's Half Associates is doing some look at Atmos, and then also Ash Plus Lime is doing some work on landscape pedestrian improvements. And so we need one firm to kind of put all this information together, take a look at cross sections and lay out how everything can fit and not have conflicts as this work is going to be done in different stages over a period of time. And so we approached Frank. And he provided us a proposal for an amount not to exceed $29,000 that will prepare the schematic.
Again, I think we visited this item before. Does anybody have any new questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 9.2?
Mayor, make a motion that we approve 9.2, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Schoenberg and Pope for an amount not to exceed $29,000.
Have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is 9.3, discuss and consider award of North Blanche and North Delphine CDBG sewer main improvements. Again, Mike McKeska.
Okay, this is the CDBG project. This is an award for construction to XIT, Paving and Construction, Inc. It's a recommendation. Dalton Aiken, who was up with Glenn just a few minutes ago, we've been working with him on this. We were successful getting the $500,000 grant on this project. And it's a grant that will fund construction design and then also administrative services, and the costs are separated within that. And Freeze and Nichols prepared the plans and specs. We took bids, had about 6 bids, I believe, that came in. The map on page 161 in the red highlights the scope of work for this construction project. It will start north of Moore on Blanche, go up to High Street, cut west to Delphine, and then go up to Bryn. 8, 10, and 12-inch sewer mains are included in this project. So the recommendation is, after Freeze and Nichols reviewed the bids, checked everything, they provided a letter of recommendation that starts on page 162. Is to award the XIT Paving and Construction for an amount not to exceed $596,848. And here's a key issue that has come up. Contingent upon award, approval by TDA of the performance statement modification number 1. All that means, Glenn was up here talking about a performance statement modification. It's a slight change in scope. What we've done is we realigned the sewer main from the original proposal from a few years ago, and it's more of a matter of formality, according to Dalton. We expect a response from TDA in a couple of weeks, and Dalton said, we just need to hold off on signing the contracts until TDA responds and says, yes, we're good with this scope. And he does not anticipate any problems at all. So need to kind of clarify that. So the request, the recommendation is to authorize the city manager into a contract contingent upon TDA approving the performance statement modification number 1.
And,
did I say that right?
Exceed $596,848.
Yes, sir.
And again, this comes out of our utility capital reserve fund.
Was that, Mike, was that the contingent upon the performance appraisal?
No. The original alignment that we had proposed was slightly different along getting from the downstream part of Blanche, where we start, on up to 34 at High. We were going to cut behind some buildings and then parallel 34. And when we looked at it more, we decided it would be best to go up Blanche to High and then cut west to 34. So it's the existing main parallels 34 and then cuts across on Nash, the right-of-way in Nash. And we were able to realign it and avoid conflicts for this future box culverts. And since we were able to do that, we felt like this was a better location, but it's slightly different than what was submitted in the grant application.
To clarify, for the motion, to enter into contract contingent
Upon TDA approval of performance statement modification number 1.
performance statement modification number 1.
Yes, ma'am. It's a little long, but okay.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Is there a motion on item 9.3?
Move to approve that the city manager enter into contract contingent upon TDI approval of performance state modification number 1 for the construction of the Blanche Street water improvements be awarded to XIT Paving and Construction in the amount of $5,096,848.
Not to exceed, yes.
Not to exceed in the.
I am going to amend that motion with my second, and I will second it with the amendment of $596,848.
We have a motion from Mayrani Velazquez. Mayor Pro Tem
It's 'cause it's your
amended,
district.
And seconded from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is 9.4, discuss and consider award of contract for water main improvements in North Blanche Street. Again, Mr. McKeska.
Okay, map on page 172 shows the sewer project in red, and then also the blue line is the proposed water improvements in Blanche between East Moore and High. Okay, and that's the scope of work for this project. Friesen Nichols, again, did the design on this. We had 7 bids. They reviewed the bids, made a recommendation. Again, XIT Paving and Construction was the low bidder. Recommended amount is $302,507. They were, again, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder in that amount. And so this would come out of the Utility Capital Reserve. This money and scope is not tied to the CDBG grant. So, but it will run concurrent. The projects will run concurrent, but it is not a grant-funded project. So, our recommendation is to authorize the city manager to enter into contract with XIT Paving and Construction in an amount not to exceed $302,507.
Anybody have any new questions on this? Is there a motion on item 9.4?
I move to approve the city manager to enter into contract for the Blanche Street water improvements be awarded to XIT Paving and Construction in the amount not to exceed $302,507.
Have a motion from Mayrani Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is 9.5, discuss and consider amendment number 2 to Boone Street improvements. Mike McKeska.
Okay, this is amendment number 2 to scope of work that SPI began. Started out with water and sewer improvements in Boone, and they are about 95% complete with the plans and specs, and as they got closer to the end to ensure drainage and was going to work correctly in the area, they ran across some things that were a little bit outside of the scope that initially that would make for the best improvements. And so they came back to us and said, you know, we've really had some additional costs. Some of it's related to pavement sections. Some of it's related to installing some pipe in the area to close up some open culverts. And so we discussed it, reviewed it with them, and so our recommendation is to authorize the city manager to approve amendment number 2 to SPI in the amount of $18,200. This would be a split funding between the UCR and the Stormwater Fund is the recommendation. Again, this is the second amendment, so when you look at the initial agreement, Amendment 1 that dealt with drainage, that's shown on the map in, on page 183. The yellow dash, there was some additional work done, and then that red box right there along West End is a key focus area for some of this work. And again, it's $18,200, be split funding between UCR and Stormwater Fund.
And that breakdown to $6,200 from the Utility Capital Reserve and then $12,000.
$12,000 from the Stormwater Fund.
All right, so anybody have any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion on 9.5?
Mayor, make a motion that we approve the contract to Schomburg and Pope for an amount not to exceed You know what, is the whole thing 18,200?
The amendment number 2 is $18,200.
Okay, so we're gonna approve amendment number 2 not to exceed $18,200.
We have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a
I second.
From Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Any opposed? Motion will carry. Next item on the agenda are staff reports. Terrell Fire Department, February 2022 monthly report. We're supposed to receive, also supposed to receive February 2022 Star Transit ridership report, and then 10.3 receive National Incident-Based Reporting System on February the 2022 report. Can I just have,
Mayor and council, as usual, those are provided in your packet, and be happy to receive any questions about those. We can follow up with the appropriate department head as might be necessary.
all right, so if y'all would reach out to Mike, and then he'll go over those with you. Our next item on the agenda, we're going to adjourn into executive session in accordance with Section Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.071, consultation with attorney pending or contemplated litigation. Also, Section 551.08. Turn this over to Mayor Ronnie here. Do it. Am I waiting for the sign? Yeah. Okay. No, you're fine. Tim's just staring me down. We're ready? This time, we're going to reconvene into regular session and consider action, if any, on items discussed in executive session. We have no, does anybody have a motion? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Councilman Simpson?